because we're not in Chrome Beta. We are live. I believe we are live. Okay, we'll go back here. Down here. There we go. Hello, Facebook. Yes, it worked. I've been praying all day that we would manage to go live here on Facebook. And I'm delighted and excited to chat with my good pal, Paul Conroy, this evening, because I heard him speak. Oh, come here. Sat and Paul have been mates now over a year. And we've worked together as well. And it's just, when I heard him last week, I was like, yes, this message needs to go out to the men in this world. I'm not even going to say Ireland, in the world. And I wanted to come on today and just chat with Paul and let him tell his story again, because it is a powerful one. Paul has become the hero of his own story. That does not happen by accident, folks. You have to create the life that you want. So I'm going to ask Paul. Hi, Paul. This is great. We're going to go back a little bit. I have no questions here. This is totally in flow. The only issue we discussed beforehand was how are we going to shut up talking? Because we totally love to talk.
I just plug out the computer after 10 minutes. On 20 minutes.
Power boom. Shut up the pair of you. But so Paul, I'm going to ask you to just take us back. You know, there's people out, there's men out there, and this is for the men, okay? Women, I know, will watch in and they'll get this, but I'm going to ask, and I was just saying to Paul there, I never ask anybody to share any of my stuff. It's just not my style. I'm going to make an exception this evening, because this guy has a message that needs to be heard, that needs to go out there. And the only way we're going to spread this message and the men are going to hear it is if we share this everywhere. You know, and our hope this evening is that men will pick up this message, get in touch with Paul, and just start opening it up and realize that, you know, it's good to talk and it's healthy to talk. So I'm going to stop talking. So Paul, this is about you.
Oh no, you stay talking away, man. I'm loving this.
So listen, take us back and tell us, you know, life is great now, and you've got your kids and your gorgeous wife and your lovely business, and everything is great at the moment, right now, because all we have is the moment. But take us back to before this. What was life like growing up for Paul?
Life growing up for me, I suppose for me, I came out of a family of 7, 6 boys and 1 girl. And for me, I suppose I grew up in a kind of male-dominated family, if you like to say, but two of my brothers had cystic fibrosis. One was older than me and one was younger than me, and I kind of fell in between the two of them. But in a sense, I fell into a role of a carer to my older brother who had cystic fibrosis, and it was a constant looking after him. It was being 24/7 around him in his company the whole time. And while I didn't know it at the time that that's the role I was fulfilling, you just fall into these things when you're in a family and you kind of keep quiet about it, and you feel this is your purpose within your family. This is the place that you have to play a part of, and it became very much a people-pleasing kind of role, because when you're looking after somebody so constantly, you kind of forget about your own feelings, you forget about your own needs, your own requirements of what you might want, as long as that's clothes on your back and food on the table. Those 2 basic ones are met.
Probably a lot of praising around what you were doing as well.
An awful lot of praising. Like, I mean, often, you know, people say that there's 2 types of children will get the attention in the family. One is the sick child and one is the helpful child. And I suppose I fell into the role, but then the third one then is the troublesome child.
Yeah.
They get all the negative, bad press, like. But the helpful child is always the good child, as in they're always being there when they're needed, and they're always leaned on. They're the ones the parents will lean on the most to support them with the sick child. And I suppose I just stepped naturally into that role. I just was part of it. I felt it was who I was. Like that was the story I said to myself. I have a purpose in this family, and that's my purpose, is to look after my brother. Like, but I suppose growing up then, telling myself this is the story, that you're the person that's always helpful, you're the person that's always fulfilling somebody else's need. never actually having time to reflect on what you might want and what you might need in life, it becomes very self-dependent. You become a person who is just existing more than anything. You're just existing to fulfill a role.
And how old were you at that stage, Paul?
I was 60, between 16 and 17 when I began to realize like where I was falling into my position. I well developed into it at this stage, but it wasn't nearly till I was 16, 17, kind of hitting puberty ages and teenager years and getting all hormones and everything that I began to say, you begin to strive to find an individuality when you're getting into your teens, late teens. And you begin to look in the mirror and say, I look different, I want to be different. And there's a little part of you begins to claw back as to find out who you are, I suppose. Like, and I think everybody goes through that role, but I think when you're so fulfilling someone else's needs, it becomes an uphill struggle to find out who you are, what your needs become.
You're second in line.
You're second in line because you've neglected it for so long. Because when you're growing up in a more, I suppose, normal or stable environment or where everybody's healthy, everybody's good, everybody develops and learns themselves about who they are and what they are and what their place is in the family and everything. But when you fall into a certain place, it's guilt that holds you in that place, because when you're the helpful child, you can never be the bold child. Yeah. And when you're the helpful child, you can never be the child that causes problems, because the guilt kicks in. You're either one character or you're the opposite. And I used to see one of my other brothers was the troublesome child. And so he got the negative attention, I got the positive attention. And I suppose when you're children, it's just attention. Everyone just wants attention. But to me, it was constantly wanting that positive attention and growing up to want that positive attention. And when I was then on my 18th birthday, then my brother got very sick. He was going for a lung transplant at the time. And he was up in St. Vincent's, he was in Crumlin at the time, waiting his lung transplant to happen. He was on the waiting list and he was waiting for it to happen. And on my 18th birthday, then I woke up to the news that he had passed away.
Oh, jeepers.
Yeah, and it's a huge, not only is it a huge blow, as in you're losing somebody and a loss of a person, but it's a loss of
someone you were very close to. This was someone who was half of you nearly, if you were spending
nearly half of me, Amanda. We ate together, we slept together, we sat beside each other in school. He had done the transition year, I skipped it, so we both were in fifth and leaving cert together. We were both doing the leaving cert together. We studied each other's notes, we looked in each other's copybooks. We were as close as could be without being twins.
Yeah.
And but the trouble is, when he left my life, he not only took part of who he was, but he took part of my identity as well, because there was so much of my identity invested in him. And I didn't realize it at the time. Like, to me, it was a loss. It was a huge loss. It was a huge emotional, I suppose, loss that anyone would feel losing a family member. But it wasn't until time and distance began to kick in that nearly as time went on and I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to go ahead. My future was very short-sighted because I had just witnessed someone who had spent all their time in hospital, struggle to keep in a mainstream education system. And now at the pinnacle, just as we were supposed to do our mock exams for the Leaving Cert the following week. And it kind of just at the pinnacle of it all, when he should have been qualifying in his Leaving Cert, his life was snuffed out. So for me to see any sense of what all this life thing is about, it was extremely difficult. It was very short-sighted.
And you put up a post the other day about your report. It kind of reminded me of me as well. So growing up in school, you were chatty.
Yeah, that was recognized. Some would say that wasn't something that should be, I suppose, recognized too early, because we don't encourage people to be chatty. We only encourage people to be chatty when it's not in an acquired situation, as in two fellas over my wall. But someone chatty in an educational system, that's a flaw. That's a negative kind of that we see in people. And we kind of put it that, like, if you're talking, you're not learning kind of thing. And it's in a funny sense, like, I've learned more in my last couple of years of life talking to people than I have out of any books.
Yeah.
you know.
I hear you. Oh, I hear you.
Oh, completely.
You got your leaving cert. I got to my junior cert. You did well.
I didn't want to do the leaving cert. You know, I mean, my parents had told me like they expected me to fail because I done my study just went completely out the window after the mocks. It just, as I said, my future was very short-sighted, and they expected me to fail the leaving cert. And I think it's just that I paid so much attention in school. I wasn't a bold child in school. As I said, I was a people pleaser. So therefore I was the attention kind of person who done well in school, came home to mommy and daddy and said, like, I'm doing well in school. So
always looking for the praise. Yeah.
Always looking for the praise. So I became one of them kids who just paid attention an awful lot in school and just absorbed a lot of information. I didn't do it through books, through studying books. Whatever I got through that passed me through the leaving cert and done okay enough in it. It was purely through me just happened to be paying attention because books and everything weren't relevant to me after my brother passed away. Like, so my parents had nearly kind of put me up to fail the whole thing and said, look, you're probably not going to pass the leaving cert. We'll go back and do it again next year. It's all okay. Don't worry about it. But to me, I had no intention of going back to the education system. I just hated it. I absolutely hated the whole system in itself, like, because it was all a big pointless. To me, it was like, you know, someone that spent 18 years of their life in the education system to be snuffed out in just minutes. And it was like, what's it all about? Like, what's it for? Like, and unknowns to me, that was the beginning of I kind of heading into a dark depression for me that I didn't recognize at the time. As in, I began to shut myself off from certain people, certain friends. I wouldn't go out as much. Then other times I'd be out way too much. And it was a whole mixed bag of emotions that I just kind of nearly put down to like, this is what happens. This is just a mixed bag of a sense of loss.
And what did you do then? If you didn't go to college, what did you do in those dark times? Like, were you working?
My dad was a self-employed engineer. He had a small workshop at the back of his house. And I basically went working for my dad because my dad gave me two options: go to college or pick up a shovel.
Yeah.
that was my option. I actually, you know, and it's funny because I actually loved art at the time. I didn't do art in school, but I was extremely creative and good at art. And that's why I connected with Ian that time over his art. And I was explaining to him before that while I was very good at art, it wasn't a recognized skill in the kind of, I suppose, industrial.
Those days, there was no money in art.
There was no money in art. My dad would tell me like, the only thing you'll draw, but if you do art in college, the only thing you'll draw is the doll.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like that was put out the window. I wanted to go to Dunleary Art and Design College, but my father told me, no, absolutely no way am I sending any of my children to art college under my funding anyhow. So I worked for my dad for a while, and then I had often done little bits of cooking at home because, as I said, coming from a large family and being a people pleaser, I used to cook meals when my mother was.
Oh, I'd love my kids to cook meals. I hate cooking.
Well, it's funny, but I have a 9-year-old, she started baking the whole time, and I put on about 1.5 stones. But
and at that stage, was there alcohol, or how was the darkness showing up in your life?
How's the darkness showing up? It was showing up in mood swings. I was one of them people. I never took the alcohol too much, as in if it was a night out and I went on a binge drink, it was a once in a blue moon occasion.
Right.
I never took the drugs. I never took the smoking. But where it showed up most with me was incredible mood swings, as in going from highs to lows, back to highs, back to lows. People would describe me sometimes, say to me, oh, you're only happy when you're miserable. Because I had only, as I said, when you have a very short sight on things, it's like, you know, you can't see a happy future.
Bleak. Everything's bleak.
Everything was bleak. Everything is bleak, you know, you just can't. You know, people are heading off to college and people are kind of having a future vision of themselves and where they wanted to be in life and everything like this. My future vision in life somehow included my brother, that the two of us were going to be somehow going off in a life together and having this kind of, whatever we were going to do it together. It was some, you know, joined at the hip nearly in some sort of physical sense. Like, so my future completely diminished when he was gone. And it wasn't until about 2 months after I celebrated my 21st birthday party, and which it was in a strange way because I didn't celebrate my 19th, I didn't celebrate my 20th, but our family of 7, I was the only one that said I'm going to celebrate a 21st because it was kind of, as I say, I was slowly beginning to feel bits of myself coming out and growing, but it was a scary experience. It's, you know, you don't know, it was like meeting yourself as a complete stranger all of a shot. Like, you know, I didn't grow up learning to know who I was or learning to be who I was. And meeting myself in the 19, 20 year age group was, hello, how are you kind of thing, whatever. I met certain aspects of myself. I said it was highs and lows and mood swings. I recognized the fellow who was very low at times as being me, and the fellow who was happy, I wouldn't recognize at the best of times. And so I was determined to have a 21st birthday party, which I did, and it was brilliant, it was fantastic. And about 2 months after that, though, I hit a low. It was a sudden lapse of a low. It was like I went to work that day feeling fantastic. Yeah, happy day out. I was working.
You still working with your dad at that stage?
No, I had got a job as a kitchen, I'm a chef in the kitchen. I just started working as a chef in the kitchen. I'd asked the local hotel for a job during the summer. They gave me a job during the summer. I got in through washing pots, doing kitchen porter. Asked could I be moved into the kitchen. Yeah, moved into the kitchen, and the old school progressing way of getting into kitchens. And I had gone to work at this stage and feeling all good about myself and everything like this. But in the kitchen, as most probably people will be able to relate in this scenario, even to this day, that you could walk around any office block, any workplace in the country, and if someone says, I have a headache, you can be sure someone's going to pull a Xanax, a Prozac, or something out of their handbag to give you. Someone will always somewhere will have something to give you for a headache in a job. So when you had about 20 chefs in the kitchen, it kind of like, well, they said, look, let's just get a big bottle of Panadol. And they had a bottle of 500 tablets, Panadol tablets in the kitchen office. And this was kind of like, I suppose, candy for most people, kind of thing. Look, I have a headache, yeah, go in and take a tablet, everything like this. And this is about 22 years ago. Like,
yeah, it was the norm.
Just the norm. It was just the norm. It was like you couldn't have a kitchen.
You don't stop work. You take 2 Panadol. You keep going.
That's it. You just keep going. You don't sit down. You don't rub your head. You don't do none of this stuff. You take something to kill the pain and keep going. Like, and one day it was like a light bulb. It just switched on, and it was just an incredibly low moment. And I think it was possibly the first time I fully acknowledged that my brother was gone. That the connection was gone, if you like, the connection to his spirit, the connection to his soul, the connection to his body. And it felt lonely. It felt absolutely lonely. It felt that everything was gone for me. And it was just hit me in one spot to say in just one
like
moment.
That in a couple of hours, isn't it? I always say it's a fine line. It is a very fine line.
Oh yeah, if you had spoken to people, like when people spoke to me afterwards, what happened was that it just hit me as an all, just low all of a sudden. And I was going home to work about 3 o'clock that day. I was on the breakfast shift and I was going home at 3 o'clock. And I kind of knew what I was doing in the moment, but it was kind of like saying to myself that this is the best thing to be doing. That I went in, I took the jar of tablets. There was about maybe 450 odd tablets left in it. I took the jar home with me and I literally got a pint glass full of water and I started taking them by the handful. And to me, and people say like suicide and everything is a selfish thing, and oh my God, like did you not think about the other people involved and everything like this? But in that moment of me, it was that all I could see, I suppose, it's a very short vision that I had at the time. And to me, I felt I had been causing pain to my family. I wasn't getting on well with my father at the time. Because of my mood swings and everything like this, I was having a lot of trouble with my father. I wasn't well connected to my mother. We never had an unbelievably connected relationship. My other family members, my brothers and my sister, we had kind of grown apart from each other after the funeral because we didn't know how to kind of describe our feelings.
The common denominator was gone.
The common denominator was gone.
Yeah.
We didn't know how to process our feelings. We didn't know how to process our thoughts. So instead of coming together, as some families might do, we grew apart and we went 7 directions into the winds, traveling different continents and everything. We just split 7 ways or 6 ways. And so I was taking these tablets and I just said, you know, I'm just a burden on this world. I'm just a glitch that people will just forget about after I'm gone. This isn't going to be a problem. It'll be a temporary problem because, you know, and then people will just say, well, he's gone and we'll have the funeral and then that'll be it.
That's as far as you can see, isn't it? You can't see or feel people's hurt when you're in
I can't see people's pain, people's heart, people. your body, your mind is numb to all that. Like, and call it selfish, call it what you want. But in that moment, I actually felt I was doing the world a favor. Because I had nothing planned for myself going forward. I had nothing planned for myself going in the future. You just say to yourself, well, obviously then I'm just a burden on the whole thing, like, because I should know where I'm going. I should know who I am. I should know what my place. I should be in college. I should be, applying for jobs. I should be, moving up in the world fairly rapid. But I kind of knew nothing about myself. I was just completely getting to know myself, and I didn't like the person I was getting to know, because most of myself was now heading into negative mood swings, not positive mood swings. It was more negative. And it's like, when you're constantly going back and forth between them, there comes a point.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. But there comes the point when you can no longer go back to the sanity version of yourself. You find yourself completely lost in that moment of, this is it. This is the dark place. This is where I feel actually comfortable. I actually feel nice and warm and fuzzy, if you like, going into this dark place. Like, and I remember shortly before blacking out, I don't know what kind of spiritual experience would you call it? Would you call it enlightenment? Would you call it a moment of desperation, a moment of belief in myself? But I think there was some little glimmer inside of me that said, this can't be it. Like, this can't be the full stop of my story. That the book is closed on this moment, on this very chapter. And I said, I quickly thought to myself, if I am to send one message, it's like when you're locked inside a prison and not told you one phone call. And to me, it was like, I can make one phone call or one text message or reach out to one person. Who is it going to be that I know can come and save me? And I sent a text message to a friend of mine, this girl who I was extremely good friends with, and I still am to this day. And I sent her a message and I said, I'm dying, but I don't want to die. Come save me.
Oh, jeepers tonight.
Yeah, and I hung up the phone, and that was it. Turned off the phone, and I said, my message is sent. If I'm supposed to live, it will get to her. If I'm not supposed to live, she won't be here. And that was my basic thought.
It was like flipping a coin. It was like,
it was flipping a coin. I was taking my life by flipping a coin. And there was no one else in the house, and I knew there'd be nobody. I was sharing the house with people, but I knew they wouldn't be home till 5 or 6 that evening. I'd be well. If the decision to be gone was gone, I'd be well gone by the time they would have got home. There would have been no saving. And she turned up on my door within seconds, in the back of a taxi. I had nearly blacked out at this stage, and put me in the taxi, brought me to the hospital, and literally poured liquid charcoal down my neck for the night. And
not a pleasant experience.
Not a pleasant experience, man, and not a pleasant experience at all. And it's funny because I woke up the next morning and my mother came into the hospital, and the hospital had phoned my mum. They said the next day, it's not somebody we can phone. I said, you can phone my parents. And my mum came into the hospital, and immediately I said to my mum, where's my dad? Like, why isn't he here? Like, and I felt like I had been reaching out for help, and I decided to take the option of help, and now my father was there. As I said, I was very close to my dad, but not to my mum. And it was kind of like, I need my dad right now. Like, I need to explain what's happened. I need to talk to him. And my mum turned around and said, your dad is in hospital. He's after having a heart attack.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so this is...
Your poor mother.
My mother, yeah. But, yeah, this is what my mother was faced with. You can imagine the amount of guilt that poured over me in that moment.
But you may not be physically after having a heart attack, but you're in emotional pain is just as damaging as a physical, the heart or whatever. It's even more so, because you can't, can't explain it. You don't have the words, and yet it's hurting. It's hurting so bad.
It is. It's pain. It feels like it's coming from your core, as I say. You feel like it's coming from your heart at the best of times. And it's funny, when my brother was going for the lung transplant, this was 22 years ago, he was told you had to do the lungs and heart together. And his biggest problem was that, this is probably why we were so connected. His biggest problem was that he didn't want to lose his heart, because he felt his heart was his soul. And this is what kind of stopped him each time, when he get close to say, well, we have to do the lung transplant now. And he was kind of so much against it. I think maybe that's why his body shut down, because he knew himself in his own heart that he didn't want somebody else's heart inside of him. And Like if you fast forward 22 years later, my younger brother had his double lung transplant 2 years ago without losing his heart.
Yeah.
So, you know, we tell people, like often like people are given diagnosis and different things and so like, oh, you know, nothing can be done. Like, and I often hear quotes now and I think it myself, and nothing can be done right now in this given moment that I know of. As I said, like back then he was told there's absolutely no way heart and lungs can be separated. It all came as the one package. But now, as I said, I'm doing it.
It's all
Not a
changed.
problem. It's
all
not.
changed.
It's
I'm
all
just going to
changing.
check Facebook, Paul, and see. There's a couple of comments coming in there. I'll read them out in a few minutes. So if anybody's any questions for Paul, pop them in here, and I'll ask Paul then at the end. So we're going to take you back to your mom's in the hospital. Your dad has had a heart attack. You're lying there kind of relieved, I would say. How did you feel when you came around?
It was like pressing a reset on my life, being honest with you. It was like, in a way, I know it's not cliche to say, but it was like being born again. Yeah. It was, I had no idea. I hadn't planned past this point. Yes. I had no plans whatsoever past this point. And it was like, when I woke up, it was, well, what am I going to do now? What can I do? And my mom said, like, the nurse came in and she said, you know, we've made an appointment with a local psychiatrist. They had a kind of mental health centre in Portlaoise. And she said, we're going to bring you to the psychiatrist at 2 o'clock, an appointment at 2 o'clock with the psychiatrist. I said, okay, fine, fair enough. Like, maybe, you know, this can help. So the psychiatrist asked what happened. I explained the situation. And he said to me, well, we're going to put you on 6 months Prozac. Just like that. This was 22 years ago, Amanda.
Still going on.
Still going on, Amanda. I was asked about maybe 4 or 5 questions as to, you know, what was the idea? Why did I do it? I was in a dark place. My brother had died. I was struggling to cope with that. And the solution was 6 months Prozac, and we'll check up on you next week kind of thing. And the checkup was a phone call to see are you still alive kind of thing.
Are you taking the tablets?
Are you taking the tablets? But the problem with Prozac at the time was, as I said, it was one of them drugs, like there was no Google, there was no internet back then. As amazing as people might find it hard to believe.
I think we're very resourceful when you think about what we could get our hands on, what information-wise.
The only information-wise I could write for at the time was my mother's encyclopedia that she bought of a travelling salesman. And you're looking up P for Prozac on this encyclopedia. But that was the range of knowledge I was given on the subject. And when I went back to the kitchen into work, and it's funny, as I say, when I mentioned earlier, like when staff and friends came to visit me in the hospital, they had no idea. Most of them had worked with me up to 10 minutes before I left home, but left work that evening, and not one of them had any idea what I was planning to do. Like,
that's the thing. It's we can put the mask on, and we're very good at
put the mask on, and you become extremely good at it. Like, as I say, because you're a people pleaser, you can't be negative in front of people. You can't tell people you have problems because you're unburdening your problem upon them. And as your mentality says, you're supposed to be solving their problems, not vice versa. And but when I said to him, oh, I'm on Prozac, there was one chef who was older than me, and she says to me, Paul, that's one of them happy pills, like. And I asked, it's like getting sex education again, like it was like, you know, explain to me the birds and the bees about Prozac, and it was like her experience from Prozac was being told to me. And at that stage, then I said to myself, hold on a minute, like if I'm supposed to be sad, as in the situation justifies me being sad, if I'm at a funeral, am I actually going to be happy? If I'm happy, am I happy because the tablet is making me happy, or am I happy because I'm happy in this given situation? So this was playing up in my mind more than anything. I began to overthink this kind of situation, and then that was still mixed in with the bag of the loss of my brother. And I phoned up the hospital after about 3 weeks in Prozac, and I said to the nurse, I'm coming off it. And she said, oh, no, you can't come off that. You must spend a minimum of 6 months on it to have effect and everything like this. No, you have to stay on it, Mr. Conroy. That's a given. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm coming off it. And she said, may I ask why you're coming off it? And I said, because I'm going through hell, I said, but I need to figure this out for myself. I cannot depend on a tablet to get me through this. I said, I can't give the power to a tablet. It's effectively what I was saying, but I didn't even realize it at the time. All I knew was I didn't want a tablet to solve this problem. I had to figure this out. And if it was going to be hell that I had to go through, well, I've already been through as much hell as I could possibly be. And it's kind of like, it can't be as bad as what I've come through.
Yeah.
So I said, let's march on. Let's go on with this. Let's keep moving forward. And was it an easy journey? Absolutely not. Was it a short-term journey? People say, I'm suffering from mental health. But I wanted to stop and I want to get better. And when they say things like, I want to get better, it's like, I want to be better next week.
Yeah, the quick fix. And we're very guilty of that now because everything comes fast. 24-hour delivery. Everything is at the fingertips now.
Everything's at the fingertips. Yeah. We're living a very compulsive society. Like we go around with a very compulsive mind rather than a conscious mind. Yeah. Everything is like, as I say, click, 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 click. This is what I get. The same when we have a mental problem, click, click, click. What can I do to fix it quickly? Because I have a life to get on with, and this is kind of holding me up, kind of like the Panadol tablets in the kitchen. You have a headache. Well, take a Panadol tablet and get back to work, kind of thing. And that was the quick fix 22 years ago. But we haven't really evolved too much. In many ways we have, but in many ways of mental health we haven't. We still feel that having a mental health issue is still something that needs to be quickly fixed in case somebody finds out. Best not know or best not tell anybody I'm suffering from depression. Best not tell anybody I'm suffering from anxiety, suffering from stress. We're living this kind of Instagram life consistently, more than ever. And I said there was no Instagram 20 years ago. It was just an illusion of what you're putting up to the immediate social.
Do you think nowadays that, and I'm not dishing and I'm not putting that down because I've walked a similar road. Depression, anxiety, yes, they are real things. But do you think that these labels are nearly put in front of them like the Prozac now? It's like, I'll give you that label and now you're that. So you're now depressed. But if you opened up, you're not. Depression's not in you. You're not.
No.
You can't be depressed.
No. I genuinely don't think that, as you say, like it's...
Or I have depression. Like, where? It's not in you.
Yes, I completely understand what you're saying. I would agree in many ways that, as I say, when we say we're stressed or when we're suffering from anxiety and everything, we tend to find labels to give a solution or an answer to what we're feeling. Because when we are looking for that quick fix, we need a quick answer at the same time. Mm. And when we are going through a particular process of grieving or we're going through a process where
it's an experience, as Nicola would say. It's an experience. You're not that. You're experiencing it right now.
Oh yeah, it's something you're going through. It's like, people say when I talk to some people and they'd say, when they're going through sort of similar to what I was going through, and I said, well, what do you want out of life, or what do you want? Well, I just want to be happy. And it's kind of like, well, if you want to be happy, just go watch a comedy for 20 minutes, and then you'll be happy. But if you want to be in a state of happiness going through your life, that's a whole other experience.
So tell us what brought you from there, because I know what your life is now. I didn't know you back then. So what happened along the journey? And I know a little bit of the story, and I love this part. And if you don't tell it, I'm going to tell it. But early on, so you came out of the hospital, you went back to work, and where was the turning point for Paul? Where was the, when there's always something that you just go, you know what, that, and it's really like a light bulb moment where something triggers and you start to shift.
Well, I think, I said, unknowns to me at the time, I think when I made that decision to come off Prozac to say, like, I'm going to fight this battle myself kind of thing, I had no idea what was ahead of me. And I think I often, whenever I try to think back, what was the turning moment or what was the point I said, this has to be different. I think in some way there was more significant a turning point than I even gave relevance to at the time. Because that same friend who saved me, she was working in the hotel, but her family was down in Tipperary in another county. And she wanted to move back that direction. And she said, why don't you come with me and move back? We'll go work in a hotel down in Nina and Tip. And I says, yeah, look, I'll get out of the county because too many people know what I was after doing. And it was a shame and guilt. And at the time, I wasn't able to talk about my suicide. It was something I was buried and kind of put into a backpack and let's hide that. And if I move to Tip, nobody will know I'll be there and I could be a whole new person again. And so I moved to Tip, and that was in September 2000. That was in September 1999. And that's to say, at the time I had no idea where my future was going, where my life was going, whatever. And within about a week or two of moving to Tip, I fell for my wife. And it's funny, you know, I often think like 2 months previous, like I said, like 2 or 3 months previous in late June of 1999, I figured I was no good to the world. I had nothing to give the world. I was ready to just put a full stop at the end of my chapter. And in that moment, I say, my future vision was so short, I couldn't see nothing. But yet, fast forward 2.5 months later, 3 months later, here I was falling in love with somebody. And often, like, I think, you know, when you're in that moment of suicide, it's getting people to believe that there's something else out there. You just hang on for that little bit. And hang on to that little bit that you just can take you to somewhere else. Like, I mean, I don't mean hang on to that little bit and suffer more of what you're suffering. Yeah. But if you can hang on that little bit till I find someone that can show you another part of life. It's like, you know, let me just show you a crystal ball here for a moment, because what's ahead of you is so beautiful. It's unbelievable. If you just hang on that extra little bit and start meeting with a few different people, or listening to a few different things, or reading something more than what you're reading, or separate yourself from what's going on inside your head. You know, and I said, I fell in love 2.5 months later. I proposed to my wife 1.5 years later in Paris.
Oh, you big romantic.
Oh, big romantic, yeah. I tell you, I went up at the top of the Eiffel Tower, but I proposed. Well, I done a trial run because I didn't even pull out the ring. I got down on the knees on the top of the Eiffel Tower for a trial run. And she got all embarrassed. She said, "Get up, you big fool." So I said, we won't do it here. I said, I won't become a statistic on the top of the Eiffel Tower. So it was actually down in the Notre Dame Cathedral then that I proposed. And all I said to her was, do you fancy hanging around? It wasn't like, will you marry me, whatever. It was just, do you fancy hanging around? And to me, it was my way, I suppose. It was a proposal, but I think it was my way of saying, I like who you are and you're good for me. And I'd like you to stick around, please, because I know you're good for me. Oh. And she did. She stuck me 20 years, like, and like, we've been through hell and back in other ways. And like, my wife in 2008 suffered a miscarriage, and in 2009 we buried our first daughter, Emma. She was stillborn at 5.5 months, and every emotion, as I say, was brought back up. And I buried my father, in 2004. I buried my father in 2004. And all these emotions and everything were being constantly hashed up when these big life events happened. It was,
and they're going to happen, isn't that?
They're going to happen.
They're going to happen.
They're going to happen. Absolutely, they're going to happen. And I suppose the difference with it being was, I was able to recognize them better. And according as each one happened, I began to get a little better at handling it. Because, as I say, it's like meeting yourself again. It's like meeting an old version of yourself again. You go to the funeral. When I went to my dad's funeral, it was like the old version of me sat down beside myself and was kind of like saying, welcome back, here we are again in this moment. And there was a little part of saying, well, no, hold on, like, I mean, you can come to the funeral, but that's it, we're leaving you behind after this. And I have a life. I am going to develop. I don't know where my life is going. I don't know where things are going. I had no big plan. I had no big future plan for myself, financially, work-wise, everything. Like,
you were still in the kitchens at this stage, were you?
I was still in the kitchens. I was still in the kitchens at this stage. And as I say, even becoming a chef was a struggle, because both of my parents had said to me, as much as they didn't want to become an artist, they didn't want to become a chef either. And because they just said long hours, low pay, unsociable. My guidance counselor said, don't become a chef. And I went to him for 5 years. Each year I tell him I wanted to become a chef. And each year he told me, don't become a chef, long hours, low pay, unsociable.
So somewhere along that you ended up doing, how did personal development come into your life, Paul?
How did personal development come into my life? After our daughter was stillborn in 2009, it was, as I say, it was a moment of emptiness in me again, because now I had physically lost someone who had been attached to me in some way. because she was a part of me. Like my brother was a part of me. It very much connected me in a, I suppose, in a soulful kind of way. Like we were connected, two souls came on together in a funny way. Like, but my daughter was a physical, genetically part of me that was now gone. Like, and I could feel myself, all the emotions of suicidal tendencies coming back to me. And my wife at the time, before this happened, she was due to fly on holidays to Lanzarote with her friends, a couple of girls. This was booked that she'd fly when she was about 6.5 months pregnant. That she'd fly to Lanzarote, have a week with the girls, and before our little one was born, and this was all lovely. And after this happened, I said to her, go with the girls, because the people pleasing on you kicks back in. I'm going to be the strong male. I can handle this.
Alpha, I'll take this on.
I'll take this on. My daughter has just died, but I can handle this. I can get through this. I mean, I not only can I get through this, but I'll get you through this. And it was like, you go on holidays and I'll be fine. So my wife was very extremely reluctant, and she said, no, I don't want to leave you on your own. But I stood up and I said, no, I got this. You know, I completely got this. 100%. I got this. Like, you know, I'm not.
On. The mask
is on.
What? Do you know what, Paul? You probably really deep down wanted to believe that.
Oh, somewhere inside I did. Somewhere inside I genuinely did believe it. Like, I mean, there was a huge part of me believed I completely got this. I mean, I can see that little dark side just over my shoulder, but it's kind of like, I completely got this. I know you're there, but I'm not going to acknowledge it. And when she left, I was in an empty house, and I found myself in a house that should have been filled with a child, should have been filled with a wife, should have been filled with happiness. And I remember sitting down on the floor, the kitchen floor one night, with a bottle of vodka in my hand, and thinking, should I open this bottle of vodka? And I said, no, just don't. You've never been one to touch the alcohol before. It wasn't your demon. Alcohol wasn't your demon. But what was my demon was the voices in my head. And they came into my head quicker than the vodka would ever go into my system. And I remember picking up a knife off the kitchen counter, a sharp knife, and looking for a large vein in my leg. I had shorts on at the time, and I had looking for a large vein in my leg, because I said, you got to cut a large vein, because that's the one that bleeds out the fastest. And again, in that very moment, just as I was about to do it, I literally put the knife down through the kitchen counter, and I said, phone someone, phone your wife, phone your mother-in-law, phone somebody. And I remember phoning my wife in Lanzarote and saying, I can't do this. And I think that was a huge, significant turning point. It was the first point I think I recognized my own vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's the first point I recognized and said, I ain't got this. I haven't got it.
Goosebumps all over me.
You know, I haven't got this. And
yeah.
I'm a strong male. I should have it. I should be a father, but it's okay, because I'm still the dominant male in this house. And when we took our wedding vows, I vowed to protect you, to save you, to love you, to guard you against any bad things that ever might happen in our life. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to protect you. And it was the first vulnerable point that I think I said, I haven't got this. I just aren't. I can't even lay claim to ownership of any of this.
Thank God. Thank God that you did have
honest God, and she
strength and the courage. I'm always chatting about courage, the courage to pick up the phone twice. Because you know, the people who aren't here today, they just that second of, I can't pick up the phone is the difference.
It's that second, Amanda.
Yeah.
People talk about, so many times with suicide, I've had people say, I never even knew. Who knew? I mean, you know, I didn't know. And 99.9% of the time, if you were with that person up to 2 minutes before they'd done it, you probably could not tell them are going to do it. And it works both ways. If that person had who is going to do it, took 2 minutes to reach back to that person they had just been with 2 minutes previous, the chances are they would be still alive today. And it's only in exceptional circumstances. You know, I know someone who had a son that was attempting suicide, and they literally could not sleep at night because their son was attempting it so many times, and they just couldn't find the right help to help them, to reach inside them to find the help that they needed. And but it's often milliseconds. For some people, even when it's planned, the planning stage is still something that they have the doubts in. There's still doubts available in the planning stage. it isn't till the execution stage, till they say like, I'm going to do it. And as I say, some people choose very final methods of doing it. Some people, I say, choose methods that they say, please, someone finally, it's on reach out for help. And sometimes you're
Yeah,
not.
that would be mine, you know, but it's frightening to think how quick and the noise. And I remember just saying, I just want peace in my head. I just want this shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up, because nobody can see it. But yeah, it's wearing you down. It's grinding you, grinding you, grinding you all the time.
It is like, and it was, and as I say, like when I was in my states of, would say, I suppose, going through moments where I felt depressed and low, as I said, I still suffer an awful lot of mood swings and things like this that tied into my past. And I was very connected to my past. I couldn't let go of my past at the
It was
best of
all
times.
buried. It was all deep. Buried.
All completely buried. And as I say, to me, it showed up in anger, it showed up in frustration. If I got something wrong in the kitchen, that most people would have said, oh yeah, let's go again. It would have been a full scale blowout. It would have been like, as I say, if I was took to drink at any particular time, it could be like go from absolutely wild partying to walking home. I could be an absolute demon walking home. I push people away. I tell them I don't want them. And people say, oh, that's only the drink talking. But it wasn't the drink talking at the best times. It was just the emotions that I was unable to keep contained due to the alcohol were creeping out inside of me. And as I say, my wife, Sharon, she phoned her mother-in-law next door, and they live next door, like, and she said, Ma'am, will you come along, get Paul, and he's in a bad way. And her father came out to me, and I was in a blubber. I was crying my eyes out, and he put his arms around me, and in a strange sense, like, when I woke up in the hospital the morning after I attempted suicide, that's all I was looking for from my dad, like, was just someone to give me a hug and say, it's okay, I got you from here. Like, because I'd say, when you're so full of that anger, so full of them emotions and pain and hurt and sadness, and you're carrying, it's exhaustive. And for someone to even just give you a hug, it's a way of saying, I'll take the load.
I'll take the burden.
I'll carry this
it for a bit.
burden. For this little bit, I'll carry it. For the bit that you need me to carry this, I'll take the load. And people underestimate the power of a hug, like the power, like, I know we're all in self-isolation and all this. But the power of human connection, the power of a hug, is something that's huge. I hug everybody.
Ian Delaney it's really bothering him now when he goes to visit his mom. We had our first visitors here on Saturday, and he's like, oh, this is just killing me.
It is. Some people are huggers, some people aren't huggers.
Yeah. Some people are like, yes, nobody's touching me anymore.
I'm the opposite. I'm a hugger kind of thing, because I learned to love that human connection. And like when my father-in-law brought me out next door, as I said, I bawled my eyes out all night long. And you want to say to me, where was the most significant turning point? I think that was probably the most significant turning point. It was the first time I gave myself up to somebody else, allowing them into my world of vulnerability, other than my wife.
Yeah.
It was the first time I exposed myself to other people, to say, I haven't got it all together. I don't. I need help. Could somebody please help me? And I think from there I started the process of personal self-development. I went to Momentum in, when was it, 2010, I think, 2019, I went to Momentum. And I suppose, we'll say after my daughter Emma passed away, little seeds, as you say, were kind of being put into my head about self-development, about figuring this stuff out for myself. And I didn't have a clue where to start, but it was kind of like taking the first step of vulnerability was the first step of allowing people into my life. And
saying it, I haven't got this.
And just saying it to people, saying to people, I haven't got this. And it's funny because when I began to open up that little bit more to people, it was amazing how many people wanted to shut down to the situation. The amount of people that nearly was kind of like, well, I don't want to talk about this. This makes me feel uncomfortable. Talking about suicide makes me feel uncomfortable. Talking about the death of a child makes me feel uncomfortable. They became very uncomfortable subjects. So for a while, I kind of shut down. As I shut down again, and I kind of hid it in myself. But when I did talk to some people, there was a minority of people kind of opened themselves back up to me when I did speak.
Just being able to be heard, just to talk and just somebody have some empathy here. Do you know what I mean? Or say, I understand, or even someone who's been through similar, that you're not so isolated with this. And you don't feel like you're the only one, even though you're not. It's different when you get to voice it and chat with somebody else.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Understand.
And completely. Yeah. It's, you know, and you begin to, well, I think you begin to allow yourself permission to be vulnerable because you realize to yourself that, wow, like, I mean, I know there's people out there hiding it, but in the bigger scale of things, there's so many people going through what I'm going through.
Well, I remember trying to talk to my friend, and she was so honest with me. She said, I don't understand it. Like, I was trying to describe what this depression I was experiencing. She goes, I don't have a file for that. I don't understand that. I've never experienced that. But then when I had my nail salon and people would come and they would be describing it, and they'd like, how do you know that? How do you know that? Big difference when you talk to someone who's experienced it and somebody who hasn't, and they struggle to have empathy. They don't, it's completely alien to them to understand voices in your head or just mood like that, you know.
Well, I think a lot of people put it down to like, I'm having a bad day, I'm having a bad moment, and all you're doing is
get over it. I'll be grand.
Get over it. You'll be grand. Like, and you know, even my own mother, like I said, since that very first day that I attempted suicide, I've never actually, as much as I talk about suicide, I've never actually had a proper conversation with my mother about that day since. In 22 years, I've never spoken to my mother in an emotional, personal way about it. There's once or twice I've tried to have the conversation, but my mom, as I said, my mom grew up in a very tough life, as most of her family were. Her parents were dead by the time she was 12. And she just grew up in that tough life.
Yeah.
And very emotionally stunted in a way. Is like, but do I love my mother? Yes, I love my mother completely and 100%. Like, but there's just conversations I know I can't have with her. And I had to learn to be comfortable with that. That wasn't something.
That.
Yeah, I had to accept that. And that was a big acceptance for me, because it was a big trouble for me, because it said, I'm very open now. I'm a very open book about, because I know I reach out to people because there's a huge part of me wants to help people and say to them, like, I get it. I get what you're going through. But as I said, there's a huge part of people too that are very uncomfortable talking about it. And I suppose it was an acceptance for me to say, well, look, I'm at a stage where I am comfortable talking about it. You are not at that stage. And I need to be okay with you not being okay at that stage, kind of thing. And, you know, and take a step back from that. And that, look, it's a learning curve for me. It's a complete learning curve for me to be able to access people and say, look, I'm here for you, and walk away from them. Walk away from people and say, I'm here when you need me, as opposed to
you've helped you. Like, I know you've been on a huge personal development, and you've been to Momentum, and you've traveled Ireland in search of all the answers that you can possibly learn, and all the development. And I know, because me and you are very similar, like, we still have mentors. I still have mentors, because I always know I never know it all. And we're blind spots. And this is the thing, we all have a blind spot to our own stuff that's going on. And that's where mentors and guides can help. But I know for you, you've helped a lot of people through chats and conversations and recommending books. And so tell us a little bit about, what does it feel like now to be on the other side? As I just say, you're now the hero, or no, you're the hero now of your story, but now you're becoming the guide, that turning point, that light for other people, which is, you know, and it's through experience and through all the knowledge that you've gone and searched and acquired to get you where you are today, which is positive living. You know, you set up your own business now, you've got your own hours, you've your amazing family. So what is it like to be on the guiding side, where now you're the one giving hope? And hope is huge, giving hope to others. What does that feel like?
How does it feel? In an honest term, scary. It's, as I say, it's a new dimension of meeting myself again. But it's not a dark side I'm meeting anymore, like over my left-hand shoulder or whatever. It's not a darkness behind me. It's a light in front of me. And if it's, you know, for me, if I can even shine the light backwards on a few people and say, look, I am where I am now. I can't guarantee I'm going to take you any further than where I am, but if I'm at least one step ahead of you, come with me. you know, and I think that's where I want to take people. That's where I want to show people. Like sometimes, like people would ask me, like, you know, what's the next 5-year plan for you? What's the next goals? Sometimes I don't know, but sometimes I think the most powerful thing you can tell yourself is I don't know, because me saying to myself, I don't know what's going on in my head. I don't know what's going on in my life. I don't know why I'm feeling this. I don't know why. One of the most powerful things I've probably ever said to myself is that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because when you accept you don't know, it means you're open to the answers that will flow within you, like, and whatever possibilities of that will give you answers. But when you say to yourself, oh yeah, I completely got this, and I'll tell people what to do, and I'll show people what to do, and if you all follow my advice, you're all going to be much better lives and everything. I can't guarantee that. But what I can say is that where I am right now is such a moment of bliss. It's, as I say, I have a wife that has carried me through 20 years of saving grace, I suppose, that she's been my rock at the best of times. And people, you know, that know us, I remember my wife was big into fortune tellers one time. And he said to us, like, a couple of things, but he said, you'll never win the lotto and you'll never be rich. Like, says, getting money back quick. But he did say, he said, in all my time meeting people, he says, this was when she went into him. I never went, I had no time for fortune tellers. I still don't, but I said, look, go on and see him, whatever, like. And he said to her, like, in all my time with people visiting, he said, you're a very lucky lady. And she says, why is that? He said, because you happen to have met your soulmate, he said. And I know he's your soulmate. He says, I can feel it in you and I see it in you. He said, and it's so seldom that people meet their soulmates. He says, it's a 1 in a million chance of them meeting their actual soulmate. You know, and I know that's a loose term used sometimes among romantic novels and everything, that is soulmates, whatever. But genuinely, I mean, I've been through hell and back, and best of times she's been the light that has guided me back out of it. And as I say, I've been reflective. I like to think of myself as the moon to her sun. She's my sun and I'm the moon.
Oh, Paul, stop it! All this romantic stuff. You and Ian Delaney, you know.
But no, honest to God, Amanda, because as I said, like, I'd like to think I'm her light.
Yes.
I'm not. She's, honest to God, she's been the light for me every single time. If it's ever that she's in a dark moment, it's just her light reflecting back off me, that's coming back on her, that says, I got you, I'll carry you through this. She's 100% stronger than I am. I mean, I like to think myself, I've got through this, I can handle this. I said, she's been through the emotional turmoil of losing our child, and losing a miscarriage, and just been through hell and back as well. Like, and we've managed to stick together. We've managed to support each other and get through it and still come out in a state of where we're saying, you know what, we're happy. We're not millionaires, just like the fortune teller said. We're not millionaires. We're not no Bentleys, no flash cars, no nothing. But in the simplicity,
you're happy and you've peace.
In the simplicity of the life that we're living, we're both extremely happy.
So listen, girl, and the life that you're living, tell us about your 5 a.m. What's the 5 a.m. club?
Well, 5 a.m., as everyone seems to think it's pure madness. Most people have said to me, like, is it okay if I get up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the 5 a.m.?
Ask Paul for permission.
Yeah. And I'm kind of like, well, if you want to get up at 6 a.m., open up a 6 a.m. club. You know what it is? It's something that stopped happening for me a couple of months back. Was that, about 2 years ago, there was someone on LinkedIn, I started a thing saying about getting up at 5 a.m. and have a cup of coffee in the morning and everything. And I kind of looked at the video and I said, well, there's no real value in getting up at 5 a.m. just to have a cup of coffee. I mean, I'd never get up out of bed at 5 a.m. to have a cup of coffee. But I said, if I was to get up at 5 a.m., what would entice me to get out of bed at 5 a.m. like? So he had a thing with these kind of weekly challenges, things that would be online, like spend a week getting up at 5 a.m. And so I spent the week doing it. And I said, you know, Paul, if I'm going to get up at 5 a.m., you better start doing something to justify getting up at 5 a.m. like. So I started reading books, or I'd go for a walk, or I'd make a better breakfast for myself or whatever. And I began to realize that I was less stressed, as in, if the kids were going to school at 9 o'clock, I knew if we got up at 7 o'clock, well, then therefore the kids would be in school for 9 o'clock, but it would be a bundle of stress trying to get them out for school, trying to get ourselves organized for work, everything. And, you know, constantly getting up in that state of stress. Like, you knew getting up at 7 was going to create a state of stress from 7 to 9 o'clock until the kids were on that bus and you were in the car, starting the car to go to work. But I know if I got up at 5 a.m., it gave a full hour, possibly 2 hour window that I could do whatever I wanted to. it was like the world just stood still in that moment, and you have no limitations. People say, what would you do if you had no limitations? Well, at 5 a.m. in the morning, I have no limitations.
Nobody's looking for you. That's why I just say to the mammies in my class, nobody
Yeah.
looks for us at that hour in the morning. They're all
Nobody's looking for me. My phone is not pinging. My phone's not distracting me. I go for walks, I go for runs sometimes, and I stop and marvel, as I say, at an eagle in the sky. There's an eagle close by us, and I marvel at him for 5 minutes. I see foxes in the fields, I see rabbits. Sometimes I just marvel at a flower opening up that I say, I'd be passing by one morning and it's closed, the next morning it's open. And I could just marvel at that, like. And in finding such simplistic things to find happiness in, my own stress is, I won't say completely gone. There's moments that kind of stress me out. But my own anxiety, my depression, my mood swings have nearly completely diminished. I said, because when you begin to see so much beauty, so much life in the simplistic of things, not in the creation of things through money or things through greed or through gaining of opportunities, as in I want to become bigger, better, bolder kind of thing. But if you can acknowledge the simplistic things, as in this is just a flower or this is just a rabbit, I don't have to change anything that's happening here right now. I just have to be sit and be in awe. I just have to be a witness to what's going on, and to allow yourself to be a witness sometimes to what's going on, and saying, giving yourself permission to say, I don't have to change what's going on. I don't have to record it. I don't have to push the rabbit in a certain direction to get him down the hole when the fox is chasing him. I don't have to do anything. I just have to be a witness to this, what's the beauty of what's going on here right now. And I think that's where my 5 a.m. kind of gets me now, like, and why it gets me up at 5 a.m. And like, I'm trying to get as many, if I could get half the planet up at 5 a.m., I would.
You've got a group now. So for people watching, you actually have a 5 a.m. group now where you and the gang, well, some of them are getting up at 6.
There's a few cheaters in it, all right. But no, I have a gang. I'm trying to slowly build up a gang. I'm trying to get it off the ground a little bit, get more value to it. Because as I said, when I used to be first getting up at 5 a.m., my big thought was, if I'm going to get up at 5 a.m., what's going to get me out of bed at 5 a.m.? So I'm trying to find some value to create for people, to create value in their lives, not for me to say, this is what I do.
That's what I love about you, Paul. You're a server, you're a natural servant. And, this is different. This is not people pleasing. This is genuinely, I do say your mess is now your message.
Yeah.
You're here now to serve others and to show them that there is another way. This is not whooshy, all this lovey-dovey stuff, which when you're in a dark space, that's what you think. You're like, I'll never be like that.
Yeah.
But when you come out and the light starts to shine on stuff, it is beautiful. It is a beautiful place to live. And that's what I love about you. You want other people to find the beauty in stuff. You're not going to shove it at them, but you want them to find it. So encouraging people to get up at 5, giving them some ideas. I'm sure you share books and tips and stuff like that, which is wonderful. So we're going to put the link for the 5 a.m. group in this thread, that if you want to be part of that, and I would say go for it.
Get to bed immediately after this.
I'm not quite well. Before COVID, I was up at 5:15 because I was teaching at 6. But I'm an early riser. Like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock's my lie on. Like I'm up and out. Now I'm teaching in the field. 6:15 in the morning. But I'm just going to go to Facebook here and see, have we got any questions? So while I'm doing that, can you recommend some books? Because I know people are always looking for books or movies or something that's helped you.
I know one of the big ones that changed me, like one of the very simple ones that changed me first initially, when it was recommended to me by somebody, was called Who Moved My Cheese? Simple little book. It's only about 80 pages. And I started actually reading it when my wife was pregnant on our eldest, our 9-year-old at the moment. I started reading it back then when she was going in for her scans, and I'd be waiting in the waiting room, and I'd be reading little pages here and there. And it was a very interesting little book that kind of, I suppose, it got me started back in reading books. I used to love reading books, but I suppose technology and mobile phones and everything took me away from books. And that was a great little book to get me back into reading books. Another one then was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And it's quite a tough book to read if you haven't kind of studied any bit of personal development beforehand.
Yeah, he's quite heavy, isn't he?
It's quite heavy, but it was one of those books I had to read nearly 3 or 4 times, go back over it again and again and again. And nearly, as I say, like the elephant, start digesting it in small bits and saying, well, what part of that relates to me? And I suppose one of the big things I got out of that book was that when I used to be, well, two of the major things, I suppose, one of them being that, as you say, with depression and everything, people label themselves with it and say, I am depressed. And it's associate their depression with their personality, and their personality is depressed.
That is a question here from Monica. She's saying, depression is in you. Do you believe that depression is in you? Or is, go on, what have you got to say?
I'd say depression is something that flows through you. That's the way I'd see it as. It's something that flows through you. And I say it flows through you because if you tend to believe it's in you, well, then it becomes something that you believe is part of you. And if you believe it's part of you, it's extremely hard to get rid of something that's part of you, because who wants to get rid of something that belongs to them? We love to have ownership over things. And that's why we love labels. So I think if you can think of depression as something is just happen to be flowing through you because of the things you're experiencing right now and the emotions that you're experiencing right now is probably due to a lot of external sources and external moments that you're going through. And these are moments that are flowing through your life. Like, I mean, none of us are having a groundhog day every day. So we're having a different experience every day of our lives. So similarly, the depression is something I believe flows through you. And it flowed through me for nearly 20 years, it flowed through me.
Yeah, but that's it. Then what's your opinion on long-term medication for depression?
What's my opinion?
I suppose it depends on every case, doesn't it? Everybody's different. We're not doctors, you know what I mean? We can't say.
No, I'm not a medical practitioner by any means. I can't say, like, someone who's on long-term medication, can I tell them, would I ever tell them come off it straight away and follow me or do this? No, I wouldn't. It's back to your own GP. And I hate to pass things back to GPs, whatever. But my own personal opinion, from me at the time, I knew Prozac was one of them tablets that I didn't feel comfortable with. And if I think that at any stage you don't feel comfortable with the tablets that you're taking, or you feel that your power is being given away to the tablet and would like to regain the power of yourself through self-belief in yourself, I think it's something you should discuss with your doctor and say, look, I think I got someone who can help me, or I think I know someone who can help me in a more holistic way, or help me in a more spiritual way, or help me in some form or manner to give me back my power of and control over what I'm going through. How can I wean myself off these tablets? Or how can I form a plan that would take me off these tablets in a safe manner?
It really is a personal thing.
It is a personal thing, Amanda. It's 100% a personal thing, because, as I say, some people, it's like the depression that we tell ourselves. I know people who will tell themselves they can't get through a day without Prozac, or they can't get through a day without taking a Xanax. Whether they're having a good or a bad day, the slightest little hiccup.
It's the story we tell
ourselves. It's the story you're telling yourself. It's that story you're telling yourself. And it's funny, I started listening to this Buddha lately, and just when we say about addiction and tablets and things like this, but this Buddha, I started listening to Indian Buddha, but he happened to be saying, fell into the audience, stood up and said to him, Buddha, I want to give up smoking and I want to stop smoking, and I know it's very bad for me. He says, how do I give up smoking? And he said to him, well, smoking is neither good nor bad for you. And he says, I don't understand. I mean, we all know smoking is bad for you. And he says, no, smoking is neither good nor bad for you. It is just stupid. And he says, I don't follow, he says. Well, he said, we spend millions and billions of pounds on cars and machines to make less smoke come out of them. And our creator made us perfect machines with no smoke and not trying to put smoke into it. So therefore, he says, every time you put a cigarette in your mouth, tell yourself you are doing something stupid. And over time, you get tired of doing stupid things, because if you consistently do stupid things, then you are telling yourself you are a stupid person. And nobody likes to tell themselves they are a stupid person. So it's a bit like medication. If you're consistently taking it, it's the story you're telling yourself, because you feel you can't take back the power. Genuinely, in my heart and soul, I believe we all have the potential to take back the power. It's just finding that source. It's finding, and 99.9% that source is within us, that we somehow manage to live in a world of external answers. And our education system, our belief system, everything is
outside of us, but
everything
it's
is
within.
everything is outside of it. It's within us, like absolutely within us. And we don't teach enough of going back inwards on ourselves. Like, I mean, I've read loads of books. I still read loads of books, and every time I open a book, I open a book with the question in my head, I don't know. And
you have a growth mindset. What can
a growth mindset. And every time I meet somebody, it's the same. I don't know you. I want to get to know you. But as much as I've followed people and I've learned from people and I've read books and studied and watched YouTube clips and listened to audios, it's from kind of working backwards and going back in and say, like, right, at different occasions through my life, between dark moments, bright moments, happy moments, I've met a version of myself along the way. It's like the Ghost of Christmas Past and Ghost of Christmas Present and everything. I've met versions of myself in a way of like an outside body experience version. I've met an outside version of myself along the way of the path. And all them people that I've met somehow are still contained inside of me. And I'm trying to tap backwards into myself to find out who is this person that is now, like, I mean, and expand on the person that I love right now. There's a person in me that I love right now, and that's what's coming out of me.
Yeah.
You're
totally in flow at the moment. There's one more question here, and it kind of comes in right now. It's, are there times since that attempt where you still struggle with your mental health that you sometimes find difficult to get past?
100%. Even now, I tell you, I'm in the most blissful state you can imagine. And every day I practice to kind of keep containing myself within this blissful state and expand on that. Like, I mean, just because I'm happy or I seem happy doesn't mean I've completely stopped reading books or listening to people. The happiness that I'm experiencing right now, I try to expand more on that and focus less on the negative of what could happen. When it does present itself, I suppose the more I focus on the benefits of being happy or the benefits of creating a more loving self within me, the brighter you shine that light, the less darkness that's going to come through that. And the darkness will always come through at some point. There's always going to be little cracks. There'll always be little cracks. That's what makes us human. And often, like, people say things like, you know, I'm only human. And they say it as a limiting factor within their lives, but they never think of it as, I'm human with unlimited potential and unlimited love and unlimited sources. And I think, as I said, them little cracks will always be inside of me.
But it's the daily work. It isn't for here today and gone tomorrow.
I said, when I get up at 5 a.m., my head is completely empty. We'll say, because I've just woken up from my sleep, my head is completely empty. Within 5 minutes, I have a pair of headphones on me, listening to positive mental content. I'm feeding my brain with positive mental stuff. I listen to very little content about COVID-19. I have an awareness of what's going on. People say to me, oh, you're shutting yourself out from the negative, and that's just blindsiding yourself. No, I have an awareness of my world around me. I have a complete awareness. I have not built a little cave up in the mountains for myself for the last couple of months and meditated in that cave for the last couple of months and come down to preach my word. I have an awareness of what's going on in the world. But
you're not feeding yourself that. It's like the bank link. If you kept putting money into, or if you kept not putting money in the bank, kept going to the hole in the wall, eventually there's going to be nothing in there to take out.
Yeah.
It's the same. If we don't feed ourselves with the good stuff, like there last week or the week before, for once, I ended up getting into what was going on in the news for once ever in my life. And it affected me. It really affected me because I'm so not used to that in my life. I spoke to someone else who has come off social media and at the same time came off Prozac. Like, there's no coincidence that when you're filling your life with drama.
Yeah, 100%. When I was trying to set up, it's very similar, as I say, when I was trying to set up my 5am page, as I say, I was on Facebook a good bit trying to figure out the workings of setting up a page.
You just rang me. I would have told you. Facebook queen.
But I didn't really know the concept of it all. I was trying to figure it out. I said I went into it with an attitude of I don't know. So I was a lot on Facebook at the time trying to figure out this kind of and everything. And I suppose I had been absorbed a lot more of the news feed that was going on in Facebook at the time. And I actually found myself at the end of the week kind of very irritable and very grumpy and everything. And I realized, oh, holy Lord, I've just absorbed so much negative energy that's being put on Facebook at the moment. And like people talk to me about LinkedIn, and I used to talk to people often that about LinkedIn. And what I loved about LinkedIn so much over the last couple of years was it was so much growth-minded people coming together to help each other. And I mean, I met some unbelievable people from LinkedIn, as in physical.
Yeah, we met on LinkedIn too.
We met on LinkedIn, and you know, it became my kind of journey to meet people. Like if I met people like myself online, it was like it's not good enough to meet online. I want to meet these people. I have to be in their presence. I want to feel their energy. I want to feel the vibe. It's like when we used to go up to the We Can We Will meetings, and people used to say to me, "Are you mad? Like you're going up to a room full of people you don't know, and you're going to sit in a room full of strangers. Like what's that about?" Like, and there was times I was happy to just go up and sit in the energy. I mean, if I put on a pair of headphones and a blindfold, I probably would have walked out feeling as good as I still did listening and watching, because the energy in the room itself was just contagious. And it was like fueling, like a power cell, as I said. I was like putting a fresh pair of batteries into my back. I used to travel from Dublin back to Tip, like an hour and a half journey, sometimes 2 hours in traffic delays. And I'd be buzzing for days after, and people would be there like, what is with your man?
Yeah.
You know, and I traveled up to Belfast to sit down with one fella for 15 minutes, sit down with Gavin Wall for 15 minutes. And then I traveled up to Belfast to meet more people and more people. I traveled down to Cork. And people that I worked with, you said to me, are you with it? Like, I mean, how could you travel to meet strangers?
But is it funny? Because they wouldn't say to that person, you've been out Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday on the piss. Are you mad? You know, and yet, you know, it's just a different way of living. So before we wrap it up, Paul, because I'm conscious the kitchen is moving here and there's bags going. And what would be your top tip? And can I ask anybody who's watching this actually share, because we can't see much sharing out there, but we'll get it shared out. What would be your top tip for somebody who's in a darker space right now in their lives?
What would be my top tip? You know what?
Or a piece of advice.
Instantaneously, I'd say, reach out to somebody, you know, within your circle. And look, 80-90% of the time that might work, might not work, because some people feel uncomfortable and might say, I didn't know you were feeling that way, whatever, and might put you back in a more negative state, kind of make you feel guilty about reaching out to them. But it's funny, like, and I know people probably say this is complete wacko, but sometimes reach out to a complete stranger. Reach out to, like, go online. We're all online these days. And I mean, put it out in an anonymous way if you want, like, and say, I need help. I am suffering. My mental health is suffering. I have 4 or 5 kids. They're driving me mad. I'm really in despair. Could somebody help me? And I guarantee you, they will come out of the woodwork. People will just, you know, it's like when you're in the darkness and you put a little pinhole in that darkness. That's where the light begins to shine through. And it's the same, like as I said, when you're in this light, I'm in this zone of light, that will always be little cracks of darkness, but it works both ways. Like, it's very binary. If you're in the dark place, you only need to put a pinprick in that place.
Yeah. So don't give up. If you reach out to one person, keep going till you
reach out to one person. And if that person feels uncomfortable with the conversation, reach out to another person. Reach out. Keep reaching out to somebody, because it's the most vital step. Like, I mean, as I said, I can take you as far as I've come, and I'm going as far as I can. So if you stick with me, I'll take you possibly who knows where, like, into the future. But reaching out to somebody, that was what saved me. A text message saved me. Like, I mean, a simple text message put me in life, gave me 20 years of life, gave me 22 years of life. A single text message has given me 22 years of life. It's given me possibly another 40 to 50 years of life that I want to live. Will I live it? Who knows what my future is, but there's 40 to 50 years of life I want to live. I want to share with somebody. I want to share with my kids. And if this message got lost out in space somewhere, what we're videoing right now, if it got lost out in space and it was picked up in 100 years' time for my great-grandchildren or someone in my family that was suffering trying to see this video, that would be happy for me. I'd be happy with that message, that my children that I'm bringing up in a more happy, stable environment. That, as I said, kids will stress you out. There will be days that will stress you out, as I say, you know, but me figuring out what's inside of me is helping them to figure out what's inside of them.
Yeah.
And I'm allowing them, by allowing me to shine, I'm allowing them to shine. And my plan is that I won't bring my children up with the theory of saying, I won't bring them up like my father. I won't be like my mother. I won't be like my father, because I'll end up bringing them up exactly like my mother and father.
Yeah.
My plan is for them discovering yourself. I mean, it took me 20 odd years to find myself, to actually, as I said, I met portions of myself all along the journey, but it's taken me 20 years to fully say, this is who I am. I love myself. I love who I am. And I'm here for whoever wants to reach out to me. I'm here and I'm willing to talk. And that's all
what a way to wrap up a fantastic chat for, I think we're probably on an hour. I don't know when this time. But what a lovely
I think the sun's gone down outside my
you know, you've now found yourself, you love yourself, which is not easy to say. When you know, it's a journey to get there. And I really feel that this message will be a message of hope to many people. I hope that lots of people are sharing. There's 10 people on now. Everybody press that share button. The only way this will get out there is if it's everywhere and people will say, what's that now? Let me look at that.
Yeah.
And let's hear this message that, you know, that one phone call, that one text message, that one ask for help. I'm not okay. And I know it sounds very cliche at the moment, but that can give you 50, 60, 70 years of a beautiful life.
Unbelievably beautiful life. As I said, the biggest turning point for me, as Amanda, was the realization of opening up my own vulnerability. And I think that's what men need to do. I think men need to just open up to their own vulnerability and let down the macho look, let down the macho image.
The thing about it is, it takes more courage to be vulnerable.
Oh, it does, yeah.
The macho part.
Oh, it does. Honest to God, like, I mean, when I first started talking about my suicide and talking about my journey and everything like this, I remember when I first even put a message out last Friday about not speaking and my suicide, my wife got up that morning to read the message and she texted me and she says, oh my God,
Yeah.
And she said she read the message 5 times before it was like, oh my God, no, it's okay.
He's in a different space. Ian used to be the same.
Space. Like, yeah.
Because they're still expecting the old us. And that shell is left back there. It's not, but they're protectors of us. So they're still very much kind of breathe first, see what's going on. No, she's okay. No, he's okay.
Yeah. You know, all these experiences start teaching us to us. You know, if you can kind of...
Yes, that wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. If you can become a student to all of that and say, you know, this is all a teacher to me. It isn't a bad experience. I never look back on this and say,
no.
Someone would say to me, like, if you could go back in a time machine to that moment, would you change everything? Absolutely not. Because if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't learn what I'm learning now. Like, I'd be another robot in the system, full of anxiety, full of stress, without an inability to manage it, or an inability to put a word or label or anything on it. What's going on in my life.
I knew what I was going to say, and then I forgot. You see, now we'll be on again. You're telling me a story when we met first last year about you going to start your own business, and you were there helping everybody, and it was a lady there who planted the seed in you for public speaking and coaching.
I had to put my hand up, and I'll say this in case the whole live feed goes off or something. But in my 20 years journey, like, I mean, I'm speaking about trying to help men and everything like this, but I have been extremely lucky because the most significant people in my life have been women. You know, I mean, my wife, my mother, as I said, you know, we don't have a great relationship at the time. She's still been a teacher to me in many ways. I said I was at the meeting where it was a jobs club I was at, and a woman said to me, like, could you do public speaking? And I said, absolutely not. Like, two people and maybe 3, then that's a crowd and I'll stay quiet. And she was the one who suggested who moved my cheese book. And she said to me, it's India, she said. I see the way you connect with people, the way you connected with people in this room. And she said, I see it's India. She said, there's something there in you. She said, you really got to check it out. Like, and that was a seed, I suppose, planted in me to say, like, let's check it out. She had said, to me, one of the questions she asked me, like, if there was no limitations on your life, what would you become? And I said, I had become 20 years. I just wanted to become a chef. That's all I ever thought about was becoming a chef, nothing else. But when she said that to me, she opened up a question in my head to say, what else have I not discovered about myself? And as I said, up to that point, I didn't know who I was. So discovering something more about myself was going to be a journey, an adventure, I feel like.
So never underestimate that conversation you have with somebody.
Oh, never underestimate it.
A lot of people will see your superpower before you ever will see it. And I'm working with my clients at the moment, and one question I'm asking them is, what is your superpower? Go and find out from the people around you, what is your superpower? We all have one.
Completely,
and that lady, thank God, pointed yours out to you. And maybe if it had been family, you mightn't have heard it, but she pointed it out.
Sometimes, well, I'd say, as with my post from last Friday, like, my own father used to say to me, like, you know, God rest him, he always used to say to me, like, you don't have to have the last word. But I'll just tell you this one very quickly. But
he's getting the last word in.
But no, I'll just tell you this extremely quickly. Just when you say about people seeing their superpowers in you. But as I say, my parents didn't want me to become a chef, you know. But it's only now when I look back, I laugh on this. But my mum actually wanted me to become a priest. And my father wanted me to become an engineer. And I said no to both. Now, I ended up becoming an engineer just to please my father in later life. After my father passed away, I ended up becoming an engineer. But that's another whole story for another day. But when I look back on it, I said, well, what are the qualities that they saw in me that made me, my mum, say, I want to become a priest? And I said, a priest is someone who will stand on the altar preaching about love, kindness, joy, and connecting a community. An engineer is someone who takes somebody's problem and comes up with a solution and tries to fix it. And I said, maybe the qualities they saw in me back then were those qualities, but the only things they could relate them qualities to at the time was being a priest or being an engineer. Yeah. So I said, sometimes people, as you say, will see your superpower in you, and they mightn't even know it's a superpower. Yes. They just think there are qualities that, oh, I know a particular job, that characteristics that job would suit you like. And as I said, so maybe they were into something, but they just didn't even know it at the time. Maybe, as I said, I didn't even know it. I just wanted to become a chef, like. But as I say, being a chef is the ideal role for people pleaser, because you want nothing more than people to love your meals.
Yeah, through the belly.
Through the belly. So it became a perfect role for people pleaser. You know, that kind of way, like. So, you know, so often you think the story you're telling yourself, your personality, and the job that you're working in, and everything, is all
the end of the story. It's the only story.
But you know what? Throw away that story. I said, get rid of the story. Put a full stop at the end of that and say that's novel 1 or chapter, book 1, volume 1, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, go back behind that and direct a new one.
Go back behind that and start a new one. Like, and people say, I had a woman tell me the other night, I'm scared to do video. That she wants to do up a video thing, but I'm scared to do video. Like, and I'm doing like, what's to be scared about? It's only but an adventure. Like, it's only an adventure. You know, and people say to me, like, what's ahead of you? Like, I don't know. But there's an excitement in that, like, and not knowing what's ahead of you.
You know, and if you don't know, just take the first step. Write the first sentence.
One sentence, one step, that's all it takes. You don't have, as you say, you don't have to know the full plan. You don't have to know the full path.
And get great people around you. You cannot be having good people who believe in you around you and are there.
100%, yeah, 100%. Like, because as I said, even in them dark moments, they are the kind of people who have been through them moments. And all of you are going to be in the one moment at the one time. So all you have to do is reach out to one of them and say, look, I'm in that dark moment again. What was it I done that time? Or what was it you done that time to get out of that? Send a message, say, look, just I'm having a shitty day, whatever. And they'll say, hey, look, you got this. Like, remember you done this. Remember you were here. Remember you got over that.
Just to remind you. Yeah, because we forget.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, Conroy, it has been my pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody. There's people starting to share. So thank you for sharing. And Paul, thank you for caring enough to share your message. And I'm excited for all the males who you are going to help, because I know you are going to help so many. within your 5 a.m. group, but I know you're going to be setting up something very special.
Yes.
It's all under wraps at the moment, but it is on its way.
It is. Now, something on the way for sure. It's close, but it's on the way. I'm hoping, as I say, it was under wraps, and I'll reveal it soon.
Yeah. And you know what? It's time. It really is time. A male leading group, where the males can just take off the mask.
Yes.
In their own time, in a safe space.
100%, yeah.
100% is needed. All right, it's been a pleasure. Mwah. Yes, we can, and we will. Have courage, stick together, and together we will all achieve more. So thank you, Paul. It's been amazing chatting to you, and I will see you soon.
Thank you very much.